Shalom, family. Shalom. Welcome to The Patriarchy is Dead. I'm coming to you guys today with a video, and I'm going to be talking about this talking point that's been going around about can modern women survive without men, or who would survive longer between men and women. I'm sorry, I'm trying to close my room door so it can be quiet in here. But yeah, I wanted to address this because I think a lot of us is going off emotion, right? And we're not really getting to the facts. I understand where people are getting this talking point from Kevin Samuels, obviously. And it's just like, it's not the truth. So I want to get into some science, some biology and anatomy today to prove that it's not the truth. And you have to do your own research when people say things, because a lot of times a person is saying what they feel, not something that they actually have studied or done research on. And this is another things that you guys say you don't like is I feel, right? But people are telling you what they feel, even though they're not saying I feel. So I want to talk about this today because when we get into anatomy and biology, we need to understand that women are more resilient than men. And this is a genetic thing. It has nothing to do with, because, men are, da-da-da-da-da. All of these excuses, it is a very genetic thing that has to do with the X chromosome and the Y chromosome and the difference between them. So women are more resilient than men, and women also mature up to 10 years faster than men mentally, right? And these are scientific facts when we get into anatomy and biology. So we're going to read some articles today, and there's a bunch of these articles that, you can easily go and look up. But yet we are pushing a narrative that's not true. So let's read this. So it says the science behind why women survive longer than men. Now, this is during epidemics, pandemics. Now, look, we're going through coronavirus. And see, let's take it to reality. Let's take it to reality, right? Because we're going through the coronavirus right now. And coronavirus has killed more men than women, because women are more resilient. They bounce back quicker. You know how after a woman have a baby and she snap back, she's like, I'm snap back, all of that. So this is that resilience that we're talking about. When women get sick, they're more resilient. They snap back, bounce back, etc. So in all of these type of situations, so it says the science behind why women survive longer than men. Research is informing the development of aging interventions. So it says in the late fall of 1887, California pioneers found themselves stranded in deepening snows of the Sahara Nevada mountains with little food and inept leadership. So we're going to read about what happened in this time, but also take into account what's happening in our reality during the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, that has killed more men than women. So this is a genetic thing, because it has nothing to do with if you work more or if you, doing this more or et cetera, et cetera. It has everything to do with just the genetics of a man and a woman. And we need to understand this, because I don't think women are getting enough credit for, who we are. We can say that in the same way that men can say they don't need women to survive, women can say that they don't need men to survive. And we can prove with science that women actually would out-survive the man, because first of all, we got to talk about the women just control the food. I mean, what y'all Women, and it was this thing about hunting. People keep talking about hunting like there's not a thing called agriculture, and women were actually the inventors of agriculture. So we're going to read that today as well, because it's just a lot of the facts are getting distorted and people are just saying what they think. Okay. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today, so stay with me. So it's with little food and inept leadership, with winter coming on fast, it would be months before rescue, if at all, was likely. This was the Donner Party, now infamous because some ultimately resorted to murder and cannibalism for survival. I think I seen this movie. I did. They made a movie about this, and I watched this movie, as a matter of fact. It was actually a real good movie. It's long, too. This was years ago. So it's although the psychological pressures that led to the cannibalism, even of the children, are fascinating, 173 years later, what interests me most about this well-documented catastrophe is who died and who survived. Let's talk about it. Y'all want to talk about it? Let's get to the history of the matter. Let's get to the reality of the matter. Of the 87 original members, 89, if you count 2 Native American men who joined them late and were eventually murdered, 47 members of the Donner Party survived. More than half of the men died of starvation or disease, but more than 70% of the women survived. More than 70% of the women survived. And more than half of the men died of starvation or disease. And y'all trying to tell us that women couldn't survive without men. Let me just tell y'all something. I work in the health field, right? And at the assisted living place that I work, in our Alzheimer's unit, all of the men passed away from the corona. Like, it wasn't no man in the Alzheimer's unit for a while. Like, we just transferred one, it's 2 men, I think, now there, and that's just been recently. But for when the coronavirus hit, it took out all of the men in the Alzheimer's unit. Okay, are y'all listening to me? Because we got to get out of this. If y'all want to say men can't survive, men can survive without women, then women can definitely survive without men. But why do we got to do that? Why do we got to make it a competition? You see, like, if we make it a competition, y'all gonna lose. But see, why we got to make it a competition? Like, we need each other to survive, to carry on. I mean, we can all survive out on our own. We can all go say, what is the phrase that I'm looking for? Everybody for themselves. It could all be everybody for themselves. But why? So I say the Donner Party is not an isolated case. Women always survive better than men. To take another striking case, in Iceland during the 19th century, life expectancy rose as high as 57 years during good times and plunged to as low as 18 years during famine and disease epidemics. But regardless of whether life expectancy was low or high, women lived longer than men in every single year. This is still true today. And I'm telling you, this is still true today. I just told y'all that the coronavirus came through and wiped out all of the men in the assisted living, in that unit. I'm not going to say in our whole care, but in our Alzheimer's unit for sure. It said, this is still true today. Women live longer in all countries with reliable record keeping. They survive better as infants, adolescents, adults, and old age. So it says, why do females survive longer? One thing we know, it isn't is greater resistance to any single health problem. At similar ages, men in the U.S. are 60% more likely to die of heart disease, 40% more likely to die of cancer, more than twice as likely to die from accidents, and 20% more likely to die of chronic lung disease. These are the top 4 causes of death in modern America. In fact, of the top 10 causes of death, women die more frequently of only one, Alzheimer's disease. But hold up, baby. I just told y'all about the Alzheimer's care unit. Maybe if nothing wouldn't have happened, maybe, but they wiped out all the mans. We had more women than men in the first place, but the fact that all of them, ended up passing, I noticed that and I said something about that. So when it hit the news, when the articles and stuff came out that coronavirus was killing more men than women, I was like, oh yeah, I already noticed that. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I say, to what is this greater? And, that's why I try to take care of my husband. So let me tell y'all what a good wife that you need, why you need a good wife. Okay, see, I be making sure my husband eat right. Making sure, he be trying to, his posture and stuff, his back, my husband is tall. He like 6'5". So, he be leaning and all of this stuff. And I be telling him about his back, and, trying to help him with all of this stuff. So, your wife, a good woman, she going to take care of you and you going to live longer. And this is what the Bible actually tell you. It says that she has length of days in her hand. Okay, length of days, meaning to make your life longer. So it say, to what is this greater female hardiness due? To tell the truth, we simply don't know. Suspicion has fallen on hormones, of course. Could it be some kind of toxic effect of testosterone? In the first year of life, boy babies do have a spike in testosterone that then goes away again until puberty. Sorry, y'all, let me clear my throat. Let me take a drink of water. Okay, so I say, interestingly, a 3-century-long study in Korea found that eunuchs or castrated men in royal court society lived about 20 years longer than the intact man. And I also want to tell y'all something, because all children start off as women in the womb. Okay, when we get into anatomy and biology. And I know that's hard for some of you men to hear, because, y'all haven't been told the truth about nature. Y'all have been raised up in the patriarchal society. But that's when we get into what's natural and what's nature and what happens naturally, then this whole ideology kind of crumbles, okay? So all children start off as women in the womb. And I've read this. I can't tell you exactly where, because I read so much stuff that I be forgetting what's over there and what's over there. But they said that when they would castrate young boys, that they would even begin to like develop breasts and stuff. Like they would start to change back to a girl. Like if you castrated the boy early enough. No, that's some crazy stuff. That let you know all children start off as women and girls in the womb. Okay. So it says 20 years longer than the intact man. Today, recent research suggests that sex chromosomes affect longevity more than hormones. So Dr. Dina Dubal of the University of California, San Francisco, and a 3-time grantee of the American Federation for Aging Research, has explored sex differences in longevity using mice that have been genetically engineered to have male reproductive organs and hormones, regardless of whether they had the normal male complement of one X and one Y chromosome, or instead had 2 X chromosomes, like females normally do. Similarly, other mice in Dubal's study were engineered to develop female reproductive parts, whether they had the normal 2X chromosome or an XY pair like normal males. The surprising result was that having 2X chromosome led to longer mouse life, regardless of whether their reproductive sex was male or female. So the 2X chromosomes, okay, when we look at the YX chromosome, we can see that it's broken, right? And this is the rib, right? That's Adam's rib. But y'all don't know nothing about metaphysics, so I ain't going to take it there. But we can see the why is broken, okay? So just because you think you big and strong don't mean you better. Everything that glitter ain't gold. Okay? So we need to humble ourselves. We need to take it down a notch. And let's just need each other and love each other and want each other, okay? Because if y'all try to do this gender war thing, y'all going to extinct yourself. But let's just keep going. So I say, the surprising result was that having two X chromosomes led to longer mouse life, regardless of whether their reproductive sex was male or female. At this point, it isn't clear whether their survival advantage is due to having two X's or lacking the Y chromosome. In either case, this brings us closer to understanding the basis for male-female longevity differences. So I say, knowing more informs longevity drug development. So understanding sex differences and aging also has implications for the future. They got this saying, what would they be saying? Men age like wine, women age like milk. No. So I say interventions to extend health as we grow older. 6 drugs have been shown by multiple research labs to make mice live and stay healthy longer. 5 of these drugs either have this effect only in males or have a much bigger effect in males than females. Conversely, the 6th drug has a bigger effect in females. So I say AFAR supported investigator Dr. Dudley Laming, an assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, for example, has studied how a gene called Richter may be responsible for the differential effects of the drug in males and females. The gene is involved in many bodily functions, including growth and development, as well as disease such as diabetes and cancer. Inactivating Richter in the liver alone has no effect on female longevity, but shortens the lives of male mice. Dr. Laming is testing whether sex hormones such as estrogen and testosterone affect what Richter does in the liver, and whether these hormones are important regulators of mouse longevity. So the more we understand sex differences in aging, the better we can understand which of these health extending medications might be more beneficial to men versus women or vice versa. From hormones to chromosomes, biological differences between men and women reveal fascinating paths to better understanding of longevity at any age. Okay, now I want to just tell y'all another story, right? And then we're going to read this article because I just want to talk about not this one. What interested me about this article was that they talked about nature and the animals, right? So we're going to read a little bit about this, and then I got some other stuff to read to y'all. But I want to tell you another real life experience because my son, he's 8 now, but he was born premature. And like everything was perfect with him. And like the day we was about to leave the hospital, he just stopped eating. So he ended up being in the NICU for a few weeks. And he wouldn't eat. So they ended up having to put a feeding tube down his nose. And then he ended up getting jaundice. So, he was in there for a little bit. But he wouldn't eat. Now, what the doctor said to me, and this was a male doctor. This was a male doctor, right? This was a male doctor. And he told me, was his exact words to me. He said, if your son would have been a girl, he wouldn't have had any problems. He told me if my son would have been a girl, he wouldn't have had any problems. And he would have ended up coming home and not going to the NICU. This is what his male doctor had told me. So doctors know this. When we get into science and biology and anatomy, it's there. But, y'all live in a fantasy. this fantasy world. Okay, let's read. So we're going to skip some of this because it's a lot of stuff that we already know. I want to get down to okay, let's just start right here. So it say, however, even if you're only counting on children having survived to 5 years old, women live longer than men. Accidents and suicide deaths are much more common in men than women and in young men. You could blame it on culture. You could blame it on testosterone, but the stats are powerful, and the fact that there are many more early deaths due to accidents and suicides in men than women. So it's more suicides in men than women. And this is where I keep telling y'all that women mature mentally 10 years, mentally mature up to 10 years ahead of men. So we got to talk about intelligence, because when you put boys and girls in the classroom at the same age, girls always outdo the boys. Okay. I mean, you might have those few star boys who come in and be, hanging with the girls and even do better than the girls in some cases. But it's not the majority. My daughter is gifted and talented in my state, right? And my son, it's like I got to stand there with a belt or something to make him do his schoolwork. And she's 11, he's 8, so they have a few year difference. But like, I've never had to make her do this. I've never had to make her do the schoolwork. So we need to really understand this, okay? We need to really understand science and not our fairy tale, what we want to believe. So it's of course, there have been times when the world was at war, when the average lifespan of men and women was powerfully affected by the fact that we sent men to the battlefront and not women. In midlife, men have more heart disease and deaths from heart disease. Smoking is a big issue. Men smoke more than women. Estrogen, which men make, but not as much as women. It's protective against heart disease until menopause, and stress is an issue too. Men process stress culturally a little differently than women. They hold more inside on the stress issue. Women have more friends and stronger social networks. A study from BYU demonstrated that people with stronger social networks live longer than people who don't. Social networks have helped modify stress. So it may be why married men live longer than unmarried men. And I just talked about this a little bit earlier on in the video when I said I make sure my husband eat right, because I'm the one who cook all the food. And, his posture, he's tall, so he do this lean over thing all the time that I can't stand, because then he says his back hurts, so I'm like on his posture and everything, and he has a back brace now that he works in, so he's not, hurting his back because he's tall. And I don't want, my husband to be like with a broke back when we older, you know what I mean? Because we can't have that. I need him to still be kicking. Okay, so it may be why married men live longer than unmarried men. I'm sorry, I just feel like my throat is just cloggy or something. Okay. Okay, where were we? Okay. Or maybe married men get nagged by their wives to get health care. And I just was telling y'all about how I talked to my husband about his. So women are more likely to get their cholesterol checked and get regular checkups, and they're more likely to have health insurance than men. Some suggest that 70% of longevity is environmental and 30% is your genes. And remember, women have one more X chromosome than men, and the Y chromosome doesn't do very much for you. Sorry, guys. Well, it does make you a guy and it makes sperm, but in the longevity world, it doesn't do that much for you. Okay, so this is science telling you this. So we debunking this. We debunking this. So it's saying this may affect many more areas of longevity than we currently understand, and there's a lot of research in this area. And consider this, for chimpanzees, now this is what I really liked about this article, because they even went into nature. Like when we get into nature, nature just tell us everything, okay? As within, so without. As above, so below. Okay. So let's see. And consider this, for chimpanzees in captivity who live to their first birthday, median life expectancy is 31 years for males and 38 years for females. Of course, this suggests average. The oldest chimp in captivity was 72, and we're learning more about older chimps every day. These figures were provided to us by Lincoln Park Zoo's chimp data as part of a unique program we participated in, and we are doing work here in Utah to help project future demographic trends and sanctuaries, and based on 35 years of records from zoos and aquariums. So it's also female orcas, killer whales in the wild live up to 90 years, and males rarely live over 50 years. The average in some studies for females in the wild is about 50 years, and for males is 29. This is hard to test because you have to identify individuals in the wild, and orcas in captivity have much shorter lifespans, and female dogs are longer than males, about 2 years. Dogs don't smoke. They don't commit suicide. They don't get much heart disease, but a dog's life can be stressful, I guess. What do we do with these facts? Ladies, don't smoke. Do keep talking to your friends. Share your troubles. Get your checkups. Man, if you're listening, you could consider the same things. But be careful with your social networks, because we all know what guys can get up to when they hang out with just guys. And as the scoutmaster of my son's Boy Scout troop said over and over and over, don't do stupid stuff. And we should all take care of each other, men and women together. As for that extra X chromosome thing, sorry, guys. So I'm loving this article, okay? I'm just loving it because it just fitted so well with the topic at hand. Okay, so what else did I want to read to you guys really quick? I'm loving it. Okay. 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 So I had this up. I don't know if I really want to. So yes, let's go ahead and read it. It's pretty short. It shouldn't take long. Women really are stronger than men according to study. So it's women really are the stronger sex. No doubt many of you will have long suspected this is the case, and now you have fresh scientific findings to back up your suspicions. A recent academic study has shown that under extreme conditions such as famines, epidemics, and enslavement, women are able to survive for longer than men. Across modern populations, women outlive men in almost all instances, with life expectancy for English women being 83.1 years compared to 79.5 years for men. The figure for Scotland is 81.2 years for women and 77.1 years for men. Now, academics from the Southern University of Denmark have looked at data from 7 historic cases when populations were exposed to extreme hardships in order to gain new insights into the gender mortality gap. Case studies included the Irish famine of 845 through 849, the Iceland measles epidemic of 1846 and 1882, and the experiences of freed Liberian slaves returning to Africa from the U.S. in the early 19th century, where they encountered a very different disease climate which killed many. These situations saw a dramatic decrease in life expectancy. During the 1882 Icelandic measles epidemic, for example, life expectancy dropped from 43 to 18 years for females, from 37 to 16 years for males. The research found that in all the populations, women had lower mortality across almost all ages, with one exception: women lived longer on average than men. So it said the study noted that gender differences in infant mortality contributed to the most to the gender gap in life expectancy, indicating that newborn girls were able to survive extreme mortality hazards better than newborn boys. Based on these findings, the academics concluded the hypothesis that the survival advantage of women has fundamental biological underpinnings is supported by the fact that under very harsh conditions, females survive better than males, even at infant ages, when behavior and social differences may be minimal or favor males. So, we talking about Kevin Samuels. He like to use this TV show. That's a TV show. It's fake. It's fake. You can't go take some uppity people who ain't never, had to do nothing hard in their life, don't know how to tie their own shoe, and go tell them to, do something. But anyway, even if they did know, any of them did know anything, it's fake. It's fake. It's all fake. Stuff is not real. OMG. So I say based on findings, because when women go into seriously, see, let me tell you something. Ain't no woman going to look at her child starving, okay? She is going to figure it out. She going to do what she got to do. How many times mama done made a way out of no way for y'all who watching? How many times mama done made a way out of no way? Y'all can't lie to me, okay? Y'all can't lie to me. I'm a mother. My mother did it. Her mother did it. And all mothers do it. So, women will find a way, right? Women are very innovative. That's the thing about it. So when we get into intelligence, right, we need to take this into account. So it says the academics concluded the hypothesis that the survival advantage of women has fundamental. Okay, we read that. So it say they did, however, note that our findings also indicate that the female advantage differs across environments and is modulated by social factors. The academics refer to existing research that suggests hormonal differences might further explain the gender mortality gap. For example, estrogen found in larger quantities in women have anti-inflammatory effects, whereas testosterone found in larger amounts in men may actually suppress the immune system. So it's the new studies lead author, Professor Virginia Zerulli, wrote in the journal, the conditions experienced by the people in the analysis populations were horrific. Even though the crisis reduced the female survival advantage in life expectancy, women still survived better than men. We find that even when mortality was very high, women lived longer. So, when we get into the history and when we actually look out into the world at what's happening now and taking all of this into account, we have to understand that women would be able to survive without man, and especially modern women. If you want to talk about who going to get out there and do the infrastructure, that's not nothing that women can do. That's another thing that I wanted to pull up, which I didn't pull up. Because if just a few women, I just want to know the percentage. So we got almost 30%. 30% of women in STEM. So Kevin Samuels always talking about women is the 2%, the 95% is it. Where he getting those stats from? It's almost 30% women and 70% men. And out of that STEM, only 7% is black people. So 2% is black women and 5% is black men. Where do he begin his stats from? So 30% are women. And you're telling me that these women wouldn't be able to teach other capable women how to run stuff, how to do stuff, and we'd be out here running this crap? Y'all out y'all mind. Women worked all through the damn Industrial Revolution. Excuse my French. I don't even curse. But I'm just saying, where do y'all be getting this stuff from? Pulling it out your butt crack. But forget all of that. Why would we even need to do that? I mean, y'all act like that would be a woman's only choice. Why wouldn't she be able to go back to nature, to agriculture, which women created agriculture? Women only are not able to do some stuff because we moved into because of the industrial revolution and all of the heavy machinery, which women can still work. But if I have a husband who can work, then I'm obviously going to let him work it. That don't mean I can't do it. See, that's your problem. Y'all think just because somebody ain't don't mean that they can't, and that's the problem. You know, that's what you be like. People be like, oh, you can't fight because you don't get out there and fight. But you be like, I got too much stuff to lose. But if I wanted to fight, baby, I'll whoop you. Okay? I'll whoop you. Just because I ain't about to get out there and fight you don't mean I can't fight. Don't get it twisted. You know? So let me give y'all some analogies because I don't think y'all getting that. So let's read this. So, woman, the founder of human civilization, because Kevin keeps saying men civilized the world. Men learned everything they learned from women, because who raised you? A woman. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Historians have focused on politics, war, and the transformation of ruling families because of the details of sensational events in human history. The role that women played in the evolution of human civilization was neglected after the establishment of patriarchy in human history became that of man. But now that history is being rewritten and the sources of history that were hitherto forgotten are being used. Women's social and cultural activities and their role in shaping civilization are being brought to the fore. In the early days of history, men hunted for food. Women were in search of fruits and herbs. In the process, they learned a great deal about herbs, which are edible and which are necessary for the treatment of disease and wounds. Women's knowledge of her herbs has been passed down from generation to generation and is still used today in villages, hamlets, and towns. Archaeologists have pointed out that the discovery of agriculture was made by women. So archaeologists have also pointed out that the discovery of agriculture was made by women. She dug the ground with wood and planted seeds in it, which came out in the form of plants. When the agrarian society began, they used the same experience in large fields to produce crops. It was also the job of the woman to secure the grain. The other important task of the woman was to take care of the cattle. Milking and then making yogurt, butter, and cheese for milk was also an invention of her brain. The use of cheese was very popular in Mesopotamian culture and was offered to the goddess Inanna in the temple. And when you look up Inanna, she had another name, which was not Yahweh. Yahweh is the God in the Bible, but we ain't going to get into all of that because, y'all don't know nothing about metaphysics. So after adopting a domestic life, it became mandatory for women to cook a variety of foods, including both meat and vegetables. Spices were also used to make them palatable. And feasts began to take place in homes where family and friends would gather and share a meal. Now, I want to tell y'all something. Let's get into some other... How long is this? Should I wait? Or let's just read this and we'll get into some other biology, and then I'm going to wrap this video up. After adopting a domestic life, it became mandatory for women to cook a variety of foods, including both meat and vegetables. Spices were also used to make them palatable. And feasts began to take place in the homes where family and friends would gather and share a meal. When we look at a woman's daily life, we rarely see moments of opportunity in it. It was also her job to take time off from other work to make clothes. And in this preparation to make cloth, making yarn from cotton and then making clothes through threads was a difficult task that later came to professional weavers. So women created agriculture, they created clothes making, they created all of these things that y'all using today. And then y'all telling women that they wouldn't survive without you. I had to take a sip on that. Archaeological evidence suggests that women also help men make everyday tools and pottery. And when you actually go back into pottery, because I'm actually writing a book, and I have a chapter in my book, it's called The Potter's Wheel. And I talk about who actually created pottery, which was the women. Okay, due to women, weeding ceremonies and festivals were colorful. On these occasions, she sang and danced. Now, women started religion as well through their singing and dancing. That's how the stories were passed on. Okay, and an important part of the development of civilizations is that women have created a sense of beauty and sophistication in society. For example, by painting on the pots, she made them beautiful, and also arranged the houses neatly so that after hard work, one can find peace and comfort in the house. Women also participated in the promotion of trade. When their husbands moved to distant lands for business, women not only looked after and managed and cared for the home and the education of the children. Instead, she kept in touch with her husband through correspondence and supplied him with merchandise as needed. This is also evidence that women specialized in certain crafts and increased their income by making necessities. When the institution of the state came into being, the ruling class established its rule through military force. Wars broke out to expand the borders of its empire and to gain booty. Women were mentally against wars because it affected their daily peaceful life, because their sons and husbands went to war, and there was a faint hope of their return because both victory and defeat, in some cases, their family life was affected. The cultural traditions they had formed were destroyed by war and bloodshed. There are stories of love between men and women in the stories of ancient times. Although these stories are written by men, the role of the women in them is not static or silent, but romantic. She challenges the traditions of the patriarchal society and presents her case and personality as independent and sovereign. This suggests that if the matriarchal system had been weakened in the society, they would have remained fresh and alive in the stories. If we look at a history beyond political ups and downs, lust for power and conspiracies in its social and cultural evolution, then the role of the woman in it will be more positive than that of man, because she created these traditions and developed them, which is still relevant in our daily life today. This is delicious food, use of jewelry, the beautiful beauty of colors, fashionable dress, song and dance, and politeness in domestic affairs. All these are part of the cultural process of women, and this aspect of women needs to be brought into history. So I want to talk about one more aspect. I want to talk about it. It's another thing too. Women also are able to multitask better than men. Men are not able to multitask. An angry man, I watched him, and he said men compartmentalize. Okay, and what that means is y'all is one track minded. You can't think in the full dimension, in many different dimensions. Okay. Men are not good at multitasking. Women are, and that's because women have had to have children and still do other stuff. You know how many times women had the baby on the hip, baby on the breast, baby on the back, still doing stuff. Okay, but let's get into this anatomy because I got to wrap this up because I got to go to the bathroom. I've been seeing her drinking this water. Okay, so when we talk about... because I said as within, so without. So I want to talk about the atom with you guys, because the atom is the structure of the family. And this is why we have movies like Atom's Family. Okay, it's telling you that the atom is the structure of the family. And if you want to get into the metaphysics of the Bible, this is why Adam, the man and the woman's name was Adam. Okay, God called their name Adam in the day that they were created. Okay, so the electron is the mother. The proton is the father, the neutron is the child. They have a show called Jimmy Neutron on Nickelodeon. If you guys are familiar with it, letting you know that the neutron is the child, Jimmy Neutron. The proton is the father, and the proton and the neutron are together in the nucleus in the middle. And the electron encompasses the nucleus. The electron is going around and protecting the nucleus. And the electron also holds, it is the bond of the atom. It's what keeps it all together. So when you look up the word for mother in Hebrew, what you come to find out is it says the mother is the bond of the family. Okay. So the mother is the bond of society. Scripture also tells us she's the cornerstone, so foundation of society. And then I'm sorry, my mind is off track because I got to go to the bathroom. And I was trying to just finish this before I ended, but I'm going to come back. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. That was crazy. So, where was I talking about the atom? So, yeah, so the electron is the bond, and that's what it says. The mother is the bond of the family. Now, the scripture also says a woman shall compass a man. How long will you go about, thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. Now, that word compass means to encircle, okay, and that's what the electron does to the nucleus, which is the proton, the father, and the neutron, the child. The mother is compassing them, okay? And the word compass means to encircle for attack or for protection. And it also means crown. So the wife, okay, the scripture says the virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, okay? So when we're sitting here saying, oh, men can survive without women, okay. You know, if I think women, okay, men survive this long with women, right? And women is outliving them. So women is going to survive regardless. If you take women away from men are going to die off even faster because they're not going to have that woman input in their society. They're just going to be some barbarians, okay? Running around, killing and raping each other and all of that craziness. Lord. They ain't gonna survive past nothing. Because once they get horny, it's over. Everybody gonna die. Ooh, people they gonna be committing suicide to themselves because they don't want to get raped. You see what happened in jail? Look at jail. What happened when these niggas get by? Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm going to wrap this video up. Y'all need to get real. Look at reality. Come on now. Shalom, family. I love you all. Until we meet again.